Okay. Nothing. This right here. I literally just got here 30 minutes ago. I went to a cigar convention where we was in Vegas. That we were and had no business up in that bitch. It was $500 to get up in that motherfucker. We had walked straight on in. I done came out with cigars, bag, get whiskey, all the whole nine. Motherfucker say, how you get in here? Walk the fuck on in, but it's Vegas, you know. Shit, make the most of it.
All right, you ready?
Ready?
All right, let go. Welcome y'all to Let's Talk About This, another division of Reality or Not podcast. You got your boy DJ Reality and your homegirl Toya. Toya, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So I know the last podcast I thought it was pretty good with me, you, and Sydney. So want to come back and let's talk about some more stuff. So what's something you want to jump into?
Well, I guess we can talk about what's going on currently, which is this here government shutdown and the effects of that. I've seen some interesting comments from people, some way left, some way right. I don't know if a lot of the comments that I've seen or have read, in text, I don't know if a lot of the people are clear on the back text or the back context of why this shutdown has lasted so long.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a lot of people, again, I know we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about believing lies over truth and not really wanting to do the research. I think a lot of people are basing some of their opinions on just what other people are saying, but not really keeping up with the politics that are going on behind the scenes and the reasoning why the Democratic Party has been holding out. At the end of the day, there is more context to why they're stalling out. And I'm not sure people are looking at the bigger picture. And I think that could be to all of our detriment. Just in general.
I was digging a little deeper into it, and I'm glad you mentioned that. And sometimes we're like, I hate when we're like sheep and we just follow whatever is out there because, I didn't realize, people like even within the military, they're not getting paid and they're still doing stuff. I didn't realize it had that impact. And I'm like, so I'm starting to delve deeper and deeper and deeper, just doing my own research. Because sometimes, as you said, sometimes people will like you say something, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you're not saying something right or something wrong, but we don't go and look and see for ourselves rather than we don't read, that's honestly, we don't. And granted, I can say honestly, I don't watch the news anymore because I'm so used to it being tied to, I guess, older folks. So, and I'm saying that like my mom used to watch the news, so I don't watch the news, but it's not like I don't follow the news. I know a lot of what's going on, but understanding everything that is being impacted from this is very important. I don't, and you mentioned it, but I don't think a lot of people are looking at it at that angle.
I agree. Some of the stuff that I've seen posted and just some of the comments that people have had, and this is just my personal opinion, seem a little ill thought out. And then again, it could be because of their own political belief. They may really believe that. I don't think that trying to put a consequence on one class of people by stating or assuming that only one class of people are going to be affected or should be affected is fair. I know there's been some comments about, okay, the food stamp thing and this, that, and the third, and people shouldn't, need to be on food stamps or shouldn't get it for as long or whatever the situation may be. But I don't think it's fair to say that or lump everybody into the same circumstance. Whereas, my household may not need, food assistance. But could I say I could benefit from it? Absolutely. The cost of food and the cost of regular bills are rising.
Yeah.
It's just the reality. It's a fact. And for some households, even with two incomes, if you're not over the national, what they consider to be, moderate income status, you may be struggling in that area. But then I don't think it's fair to say that somebody who's a single parent who may be working or may not shouldn't have the right to at least feed their children or feed themselves when we live in a country of good and plenty. I've over the years I've always heard of America being referred to as the country of good. We have a plethora or bountiful amounts of things. I can remember back a few years ago, maybe some 10, 15 years ago, when dumpster diving and things of that nature was like a big thing. And these green conservative people, I didn't forgot what name they used to go by,
What's dumpster diving? What's dumpster
when they
diving?
would go to like certain grocery stores or different restaurants, and they would go through the trash and recover food that they had considered to be waste, but then others would consider to still be edible, usable, able to be, even rationed to maybe homeless people or shelters or things of that nature. And they were talking about the amount of waste and the amount of food that gets thrown away in the United States on a daily, whereas some countries wouldn't have access to that amount of food, probably ever, not to the extent of the amount that was being thrown away. So when I say to be selfish or to be like, you don't want to help somebody feed themselves or feed their family, I think that's a little selfish and one-sided, because we don't always know the backstory. We don't always know the context of why somebody would be receiving some assistance. I think that it was stated that they were kind of targeting some Democratic states and some Democratic policies to target a certain class of people, primarily people of brown color. And I include, Mexican, Latino, and African American in that class, and refugees, people that have come to the country looking for, asylum and things of that nature. But to assume these were the only people that were benefiting off of government assistance, I think is kind of
it's not even true.
Ill-informed.
No, it's not even true. I mean, I looked up something and it said that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I looked up, it had mentioned that public assistance is used more from, I mean, it's more of them, but or as a number wise, is used more from white Americans than it is than any. So it's just tricky. Like, I mean, you brought up a great point, and I'm glad you said it. You said that people watching what other people are doing and not really understanding what they're like. You don't know people's circumstances. That's why I try to help where I can, but I try not. Like if you say, hey, I don't need to know. I don't need to know the why. You say, hey, look, I need some help with this. I'm like, okay, cool. How can I help? I'm looking at that. Like, I don't feel like most people would come to me. I don't need your reasoning behind it. I see that you need help. Let me help. But say, for instance, with food stamps or SNAP or whatever, it's like, yes, SNAP or food stamps, what I'm saying? But I don't ever want to qualify to be able to get food stamps. And I don't think most people do. I think most people are in the mentality of, hey, I work, hey, I got to do da da da. I mean, because if you can you imagine you only I'm looking at it from, say, for instance, $500 of food stamps or something like that per month or something like that. You're only getting $500. You're not really getting home assistance, or if you are, like, it's just like, I don't ever want to be in a position where I have to have somebody help me out to pay my. I mean, I would love for somebody to pay my bills, but I don't ever want to be in a situation where I have to lean on that to be able to do that. And I remember back in the day, it used to be this whole negative stereotype that women are just having kids to get more food stamps or get more child support and stuff like that. And that's it's a terrible mentality to have. Like, people are having kids for whatever reasons and they're building families, and I can't be there to judge on why they're building a family. They wanted to do it. That's on them. The assistance that they get from the government has zero to do with me. Of course, I mean, you can say taxes and stuff like that, but either way it go, like, they need the help. So I gotta pay for it. I'm in a tax bracket where I can pay the taxes that are, I mean, they're high, but I can but I have to pay them just to be able to make sure. And it's not as if it's targeting me to pay something. It's targeting my tax bracket. It's targeting the people that makes the same amount of money as me, a little bit, some more than me, some less than me, but it's basing it off of how much I make, not based off of targeting Sean. Like that. And that's the part that I like. People take things and they almost make them personal, and it's not personal. Like, hell, if you get food stamps, shit, get them. Shoot, like, if you don't, then hey, get the money, whatever you can. My goal is to not ever. I've gotten food stamps before. I wasn't working. I had to lean on the government, and honestly, it almost made me feel uncomfortable to get them, because of course I was up here, but then I'm unemployed and I'm making over six figures, but then now I'm unemployed and you're telling me I'm making $600 a week. It's like my mortgage is $2,400. So $600 a week, and I'm trying to eat and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's literally my and mind you, that's not even with taxes. So just note, from going from here to here, not working can impact someone where they need assistance. I've received food stamps before, and I'm not ashamed of it. I was before, and I was ashamed of it when I was a kid. I was like, I had to go to the store with the book and spend food stamps, and I was like, oh God, and I had the cheese, and everybody didn't think that, people would say things and stuff like that, but that was how we lived. It's like they made good ass grilled cheese sandwiches. I don't know, I'm just living as a child, and that's a part of the that's one of we ain't got to jump into it. We can still stick on the government, but that's one of the topics too. Is I grew up within not necessarily dysfunction, but I feel like it was a little bit blended on the way that I ended up, coming out of it. I figured it out, but I didn't understand that I was poor as a kid. I just knew that hell, I mean, we had the box of cheese in there. My mom making $35,000 a year with 3 kids and no assistance. And, it's just and that was in the 90s. That wasn't even in the 80s or 70s, so it's just understanding as you grow up, or something that you're not going to go back to. But back to the government conversation. Sorry, I delved off too much, but back to the government.
All kind of plays hand in hand. I mean, because when you historically think about why assistance was kind of shunned upon in the Black community, at one point in time, they used to make African American women, single moms at that, jump through 1,000 hoops to receive assistance. There couldn't be a man in the home. You couldn't make a certain amount of money. You couldn't own things. They would come and do inspections on your home to see what you had in there, if it was things of value, to try to make sure you weren't scamming. But a lot of people grew up in a generation where that assistance helped keep the family fed. And I guess this is where my conundrum with the catch-22 with abortion. I'm one of those people that I just believe that whatever your circumstances is, that's for you to decide. I'm not pro anything. I understand that circumstances happen, but when you promote take the option away from a person being able to decide, I don't want to bring a child into poverty.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to bring a child into a home where I can't afford to have them there. And
Mm-hmm.
then for you to then say, you have to keep this child, or you have no other option but to have this child, but then we're not going to assist you. How does this work in 2025 with the cost of living being what it is? So does the mother raise the child? How does she go somewhere and
That's one
provide
system.
and work and put in 80 hours somewhere, pay for childcare? Rent has skyrocketed. Housing is just ridiculous. Buy groceries. Lord forbid if you have a vehicle, put gas in the car, clothe
Mm-hmm.
them. How do you do this on an income medium of less than $30,000 a year? How do you make that happen without
Mm-hmm.
some help?
You
How do
didn't
you
even bring
make
it.
that
You didn't even
happen?
bring up daycare. Daycare is
Yeah, that's what I'm
is
saying.
not a.
How do you do this with an
Mm-hmm.
income medium under $50,000? Under,
Mm-hmm.
because you got to think the cost of living in each state and the different parts of the country differs, but the cost of living in those areas differ. I could maybe live in California and work a job and get paid $25 an hour, but my rent is $4,500 a month.
Oh, you can't even live there.
Exactly. You know
California
what
is.
I'm saying? When you say to somebody, oh, you make $25 an hour. Okay, I make $25 an hour, but my rent is $4,500. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't include the utilities. That doesn't include putting food in here. That doesn't include the extra amenities of life, just literally having a quality of life, being able maybe to go buy yourself an outfit. Now let's throw 4 or 5 kids in there in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
In 2025, I'm going to be clear about what I'm talking about in time and era and space and what we're looking at as far as the cost of living. How does that work? How does that seem fair to say that if I had an option to say, okay, maybe I made a mistake, maybe I'm not ready, but
Mm-hmm.
is it fair for me to bring another child or another life into this situation that I'm not prepared for? Okay, and then they throw in the argument, okay, well, you could put them in up for adoption. How many are being adopted that go past 3 or 4 or 5 years old? So now they're in the system. And again, now the government is supporting them. And who knows what type of care they're getting in these facilities where there's no mother, no father, no love.
Mm-hmm.
You're being taken care of, but are you being nurtured? Are you being loved? And so when they talk about the different nuances of why some people support, oh, let's cut this, let's cut that. The Democratic Party, and I don't know 100% of the details, and I should do more research on it, but I really just haven't had time. But I know a
Mm-hmm.
core part of their stalling was to prevent healthcare from skyrocketing. I personally work in the healthcare industry, and it is a fear. We are very afraid for the consumers that I work with, and I predominantly work with the mentally ill, people with disabilities. Most of those people get Social Security or on some sort of fixed income. A good portion of them are homeless and have zero income,
Mm-hmm.
but they're suffering with mental illness. How do you keep that sustained? How do you keep those people at least able to get medication and to be seen by a doctor so that their challenges don't overwhelm them to the point where crime increases,
Mm-hmm.
homelessness increases? There is a fear there that some of these people, if healthcare gets to a point where it's so expensive that they just will choose not to get it. Now, we've seen in the last year or two the amount of crime that has skyrocketed. And low key, they have associated all of these particular incidents with the person having some form of mental challenge. Now, let's look at that from a person or a body of people who can't get care,
Mm-hmm.
can't receive treatment, who can't go to a therapist or a psychologist and get that medication that they need to keep them sustained, so that they think about their actions before they act on them, before they decide to assault somebody, before they decide to walk up on a billionaire and shoot him in the head, or, and that happened. He owned an insurance company or something like that. And they refused to pay for some treatment that this person's family member was going through. And it overwhelmed this person to the point of wanting to act in a violent way. So now what if we have an increase of that? Yeah. Since when did having healthcare become big business with deciding to help keep you alive? With doctors choosing to take care of people and not take care of people. And it's kind of interesting because you're from Michigan, you're from the small town I'm from, and people at one point in time, I remember there was a question on the box when you would apply for benefits in Michigan. They would ask you, did you move here from another state to receive benefits? Because in some other states that wasn't governed, such as Michigan is when it comes to healthcare, their treatment of care is deplorable. I had never experienced what I've started to see in Muskegon since the hospital has been taken over by big business, where you go into the waiting room and wait 7-8 hours to be seen. That's crazy. Be there half of a day and not receive a bed, to be seen and supposedly treated, sent home. And I've had word of people's family members passing away within hours, days, because of the lack of care. Back when we were younger, we used to hear about that stuff happening in big cities. You used to hear about that happening in cities like New York, Chicago. California, where they were picking and choosing on who they would care for based on if they had insurance or not. And in Michigan, it was always some golden rule that they would treat you whether you had insurance or not. But now we're making some kind of weird shift to where it's going into big business and they're choosing who they're going to treat. How fair is that? Where are we headed as a country where we think that's humane? You say you don't want people to have an abortion. You don't want them to have rights over their autonomy over their body and decision making when it comes to their health. But then if they do, they can't afford it. So it's almost like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. I'm a little shocked at the Democratic Party for not standing up a little bit more, for resisting a little more. I feel like they've been kind of just standing back and watching to a certain degree. I can't imagine that if our former President Obama was still in office, that the things that have occurred in the last 12 months wouldn't have gotten him impeached, wouldn't have gotten him killed, wouldn't have gotten him taken out of office, because they would have thought these acts were deplorable. In the last 12 months, over 1 million people have lost their jobs. How fair is that? Now we're making people butt heads against what's right and what looks right on the surface. So they tell you, oh, well, they're holding out from giving y'all food stamps and y'all Social Security checks and pay, to almost put you in a corner to where you're saying almost like, well, just go ahead and give them what they want. But now, what is the consequence of just giving them what they want? Because if we don't decide to stand up to some of these decisions, what does this look like overall for a country? We're talking about benefits. We're talking about life and death here. I mean, there's so many other things they could probably be disputing and arguing about, but it's definitely a stall out tactic to make them give in and just give them what they want without really looking at the consequence of what that's going to impact overall if it goes through as it is.
Yeah, I'll say this. I think you brought up a great point. And the point is, like, even going back to the abortion topic, say for instance, you had mentioned $25 an hour, which is a decent salary or a decent
Mhm.
amount of money to make, but it's $25 an hour, 40 hours a week. What does that work? I think that's $1,000 a week. So say
Mhm.
2,000, say you're making $4,000 a year or
Mhm.
$4,000 a week. I mean, $4,000 a month. $4,000 a month, tax at 70%. You're down to $2,800. So you're about getting $1,400 every 2 weeks. $1,400 every 2 weeks. Take out medical, take out
Mhm.
insurance, that's all that stuff. You're probably down to like 12, 13.
15.
Just say 12, 1300. I think it's less, but just say 1200. Just say 1200 as a whole. So out of 1200, and then this is what I learned this from, and I don't have kids, and I learned this from having to break down the math for when I was applying for forgiveness for my loans, and I still ain't got forgiveness. Fuck them all, but
Mhm.
and I had to break down all the numbers. I was like, wait a minute, okay, I'm at 1200. I'm carrying home 2500. Okay, my car insurance, $200. My eating, $200, $300 on the low end. Gas back and forth to work, say $100, $200. Or I say probably $200. So, and mind you, throw in daycare now. Like the whole abortion thing. Throw in daycare. Daycare can. I've seen some numbers. I'm like, geez, like that is like, how could someone? You mentioned that. How could someone survive off of not being able to? Because I don't know the daycare numbers, but I want to say I'm
Well,
saying on
just
the
do the math. Look at it like this, Shante. It's a job. So say,
yeah.
for instance, that job pays $12, $13 an hour. Do the math. If they watching your child 40 hours a week and they're getting paid $12 an hour, do the math.
I mean,
That's
even
what you're
worse.
paying.
Look,
That's what you're paying.
look, doing the math straight up. That's half of what you make. So
Exactly.
already, so you say $25 an hour, you say $12 an hour, you're already cutting that 25 to 12. And listen, you haven't eaten yet. You haven't gotten back.
Clothe
Like
them.
it's all, and it's just crazy to me that, and don't get me wrong, the problem I have with the current government situation now is they don't know what to do. And I'm not giving them any. I mean, this is why we put elected officials in there to be able to figure out what to do. They don't know what to do against this current administration. He's doing things, and I feel like people are so like, don't get me wrong, I don't like the things that he's doing, but I like. Well, no, I don't even say that. I'm for shaking it up so you can figure out how to stop these things, because we've been kind of coasting within the government, and everyone's doing their jobs, bills are going through, but we're starting to see the officials that we vote in aren't. I want to say they're not qualified, but they
They're not.
don't know how to handle things. They don't know how to get the shit done. That's the bottom line. So, but I don't know.
I mean, I would say that that's a fair statement. I used to refer to it as we have an old government. Some of those positions between Congress and Senate are like lifelong positions. But then you have to think about it. Some of them people that's sitting in them desks are 70, 80 years old. Think about what era they grew up in. And that was to keep the mindset of the good old boys type mindset intact. So we'll give you longevity and lifetimes. Sometimes every now and again I'll watch C-SPAN or watch some kind of session that's going on, and they'll pan around the room and you see some of them old people in their sleep, barely paying attention.
But listen,
And
even the younger
and you can't
don't
get
even know what to do.
So. No, because now we've just made it so much easier to what I used to refer to as cut and paste. I got the job. And you said it wonderfully with the competency factor. Don't know how to do it. How do you get trained for a job that somebody been had for 78 years other than them passing on their mentality to you?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
and the way that yeah, this is just training you. We saw that when we kind of talked a little bit about the leaked conversations that we're having amongst some of those representatives behind closed doors. But then you think to yourself, they got coached by somebody. Somewhere
Yeah.
along the way, the behavior was condoned because this just didn't start from nowhere. You know, I think technology has brought stuff to the forefront, but I guess it's been plenty of backroom conversation over a good bottle of wine or whiskey or whatever spirit they into, that these conversations go on a regular, that these younger people, this younger generation has been exposed to in some way, form, or fashion. Because you think about how you were in a fraternity, and you know how it is when you get courted and they seek you out and they bring you into the special meetings and they tell you the special rules and all the things.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, it's still happening. And that's to keep the mindset intact. And it's sad that this administration has found a way to tap into it and use it to their advantage. So now is where we as a community, and I say that Black, Brown, LGBT, Asian American communities, where we have gotten to a place of complacency and comfort, that we have condoned not paying attention to what's happening right in front of our face. We have lost track of keeping up with what government is doing. You know, I could imagine when our parents, grandparents were going through the civil rights era, that was like a big thing for people to be socially and, you know, governmentally aware of what was going on and why decisions were being made. We just got so comfortable, as you stated before, with just things kind of just being complacent. And so the shaking up has definitely showed how many acorns needed to fall.
Listen, it's always interesting. Like, and this is one thing and we'll jump to the next topic. One thing that I never cared for, and don't get me wrong, I believe in marching, and I believe in, but at the same time, how do a march now doesn't have the same impact as a march in 1959 or 1964, only because, and I'm saying that because you look at what was going on back then, it was like we were literally marching for equal rights. Now we're just, it's almost like, okay, let's sign up for the march because we believe Black Lives Matter. Cool, I'll go and support that, but it's like it still has to get bigger than that. It has to get engaging within, because, you know, politics are just kind of, it's like you get in, now you got to figure out how to get around the red tape. But we need people in there that's pushing past the red tape to be able to get things done. And like we said earlier, that people are so comfortable in these positions now. And that's why I like the discomfort that's happening, but I don't like the impact that it's having on our people.
Exactly.
So, but let me ask you this question.
People definitely could get more aware. That would help. As you stated before, back then people were aware, and I think that we just need to get a little bit back more aware and accountability. I guess that's the right word. Holding these representatives accountable for what they say they're going to do, and making sure they're doing it. So what you want to segue into?
Yeah, let me ask you this question. So, who did you look up to when you was growing up? Like, who was your influence? Who drove you to be like, you know what, this was Latoya, not necessarily what you aspire to be, but at least that motivation that you use to be able to say, you know what, because think about it like this, right? When we grew up, it was either we could go this way or we can go this way. And it really wasn't like a middle ground. Like, in my opinion, I feel like it was either, hell, you either sold drugs or you was on the straight and narrow. And I kind of felt like, not necessarily selling drugs or anything like that, but I kind of feel like say for instance, high school, like I wasn't like a popular person, but I wasn't like the person that people didn't know either. You know what I'm saying? I was kind of in the middle. So like, and I asked the question, like, who influenced you to be able to get to where you're at right now? And it doesn't even have to be. So I give an example. Like this is a fictional example, but I used to love Claire Huxtable just because she was witty, she was charismatic, she was pretty much right all the time. And I just felt like, so my idea was, I was like, you know what, I want to be a lawyer. Then I found out like 10th, 9th grade, I was like, oh shoot, you gotta go to school extra. It's like, I don't want to do that shit. I'll do engineering. But anyway, like that was kind of my motivation. I mean, of course, you know, like Malcolm X, Martin, and all that stuff. But like as a fictional character, like Claire Huxtable was the person that I was like, damn, like I want to be like her, not like womanly, like, but I wanted to be like her as far as she's quick on her feet. She can solve the problem. When Cliff was doing whatever, she was able to, you know, figure out the family. Like she held the family together. And then, but she was also smart too, where, you know, she did her job and she was able to, you know, handle the kids and stuff like that. So, but what was your, who did you look up to when you was growing up? It could be fictional, it could be non-fictional, it could be a family member, etc. Like what's your thoughts on that?
It's kind of interesting because in a way, I can't say that I just looked up to anybody and wanted to desire their life or be like them. Did I get inspired by people? Yeah, I got inspired by a lot of things. I got a lot of inspiration from my grandfather, just because he was omnipresent. He was always there, always supportive, always encouraging, but he was a very quiet man. He didn't talk a lot. He didn't, you know, scold. He wasn't abusive. He wasn't an aggressive man. He was a very simple guy. And he was what I would consider to be like the epitome of a nice guy. He married my grandmother. He took care of his 7 kids. He didn't have any outside children. He made sure home was taken care of. He made sure extended family. He showed his strength in being reliable, being present, his character and his actions spoke for him. He wasn't a man of many words by no means, but if he said something, he meant it. He had believed in honor, and you know, if you say it, you're going to do it, stick to it. But he was always supportive. There was just never a point in time in life that he wasn't there. When my mother and father got divorced, we never felt the lacking of a father figure because he was always there. If there was an event, if there was something going on in school, you would think nobody was going to be there to support, because I'm living with a single mom. My mom had to work. She couldn't always come to the field days and this and that. But you could look out the corner, or you could look on the other side of the field, and you see my granddad standing on that fence, watching and waiting. All you had to do was tell him what day it was and what time. And he was going to be there. Whether you did good or bad, he was going to cheer you on, and he had that change, that little money for you when it was over. So his character spoke to me in a lot of ways. Inspirationally wise, I always aspired to want to be great. I knew that I had it in me to be great. And my teachers knew that I had it in me to be great. They used to often say, she do just enough to get by. And so I think I was always my own biggest enemy when it came to being
complacent.
Yeah, because I've never fit the mold. I've always wanted to be my own thing, do my own thing, kind of tread my own path. I used to get inspired by watching Dynasty. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I remember Dynasty.
So back in the day.
Yeah, and that nigga woke up like the host.
Blake and all of them. I used to say to myself, now I want that life. I want to walk around with a fur coat on, and I want to carry the briefcase, and I want to have the big house. And when I was younger, I used to like to look at Victorian magazines, and I used to tell my mom, I'm going to get me a big house, and I want a Victorian style house, and I want a tub with the bear claws. and the gold tips, and those things just inspired me. But I can't say that there was ever one person that I just looked up to want to emulate or be like, because I always thought I was great. I knew I had it in me to be great. That's the cockiness in me. I often refer to it as the Capricorn in me.
It's not cocky. It's confidence. Like
yeah,
that,
I've always kind of just did my own thing, and I never really cared what other people had going on. I set my own style. I did my own trends. I kind of live my life in a sense that I'm gonna do what Toya want to do, and that's good, bad, or indifferent. I've had some great experiences. I've had some not so great experiences, but I've often said that, you either learn from it, grow from it, and you move on. Some of the things that I've done in my life have inspired me to want to do better. The steadfast in me has always allowed me to do better. I always, I'll make one benchmark, and I ain't even satisfied with staying there too long before, in my own mind, I've set another goal, another challenge for myself. So, a lot of the things that inspired me when I was young, I've achieved those things. I bought the cars. I've traveled. I own a home. I have a job that pays decent. I have the children. They have their own way of making their way through life, but they're safe. They good. They never been in no trouble. They never been in no jail. They never, they don't really do that weed. Oh Lord, when it became legal. But as far as heavy drugs, they don't drink alcohol. I don't have a whole lot of things in my life that I'm disappointed about, because I kind of set my own benchmark.
Yeah.
So I hope that that's inspirational to somebody else, maybe looking from afar, to be like, I don't want to necessarily be like her, but I want to have the tenacity, the drive, the steadfastness to kind of check off some marks in life. So hopefully that kind of answers the question, but there was just never a whole lot of people that I just looked up to and was like, oh, I want to be like Blake. No, I don't want to be, I want to be like Toya, but I want to be great. I want to have that life, but I don't want to be like him to get it or her to get it. You know what I'm saying?
I give you three people. My mom, Brian Clancy, my cousin, and me. And when I say my mom, like her work ethic,
yes,
is like driven in me. It like I will work till the end to be able to get whatever I'm trying. Like my mom will work doubles, then come to my grandma's house, and then it was like she was making sure that we were taken care of, but she was making sure that financially she was trying to figure things out, being a single mom. Like my mom bust her at, like I can give you all I give you all of the bad stories of her annoying me or getting on my nerves, but she's the one that, like, she was the reason why I would work. Even if I wasn't making the money at the time I should have been making, I'm working double shifts just to make sure that my family is taken care of, we good and all that stuff. And she would find a way to, she's the only person that could touch my nerve too. Like literally everybody else, I'm just like, whatever, I can bypass y'all. But the mom, like, she the one that will touch my nerve, but at the same time, if I need anything from her, she got me. And that's why I try to hand that down to my nephews and nieces and stuff like that, that anything they need, I will figure out how to get it, working, not working, etc. Brian, like, me and Brian the same, well, all same class, but Brian always, like, me and, like, Brian used to stay across the alley from me. I didn't even know Brian was my cousin until like maybe first, second grade. I can't remember. Like, I think he knows the math a little bit better than me, but we was friends before we knew that we were cousins. And we hung out, we played Nintendo, we did all other things. But then Brian's hustle, Brian's drop, like Brian was the dude that was selling candy in elementary. You know what I'm saying? He was that dude. I'm like, okay, he works hard. Okay, cool. Well, he got his candy hustle. Okay, I get my paper route hustle. Now I'm over here slinging fucking the Chronicle like 2 paper routes, shit like that. He got me my job at McDonald's. Like I had 2 first jobs. I worked at McDonald's and I worked at this camping, and I got him the job at the camping thing. So it's kind of like we kind of went back and forth, but Brian always had that drive and that hustle. Brian started DJing, in high school. I started DJing in college. It's like, and it wasn't like directly, hey, look, I'm biting what you're doing. It's like, well, no, I've always wanted to DJ, and you made it look easier. Not easier, but you made it look more attainable for me to do something like that. So then I went on and pivoted and started doing it in college. So it's like always it wasn't necessarily a competition between me. Hell, Brian had a Cherokee like in high school. He was like, he bought it with his own money. It wasn't like his mom bought it or anything like that, or his pops or my uncle, whatever, bought it, whatever. So it was kind of like dope, what I'm saying, just to see his drive. So I was pushed, like I almost went to, it used to be GMI or Kettering, what I'm saying, I almost went to school because he went to that school, but I decided to go to Michigan State. Great decision. But all the been said, like he was the one that, side by side that I was inspired by, but then say for instance, me, I'm very similar to you. I'm gonna do it my way. You said bad, or you said good, bad, and different. I'm going to make it mine. You know what I'm saying? I am going to, but I know that I have to pay for it. Nobody else, like as soon as I got out of my mom's house, it wasn't like fuck you, mom, or anything like that. But it was like, okay, I'm an adult. You could say whatever. Like I remember one time I went home and Eddie came. We used to try to coordinate the times that we'd go home. He was at Grand Valley. I was in Michigan State. And she was just like, and I was like, hey, I'm about to go by Eddie's house. Da, da, da. She was like, oh, you ain't about to take no car over here. I was like, okay, cool. Eddie, can you come get me? Boom. Eddie came and got me. Went over to Eddie's house. Me, Eddie, Feek was out chilling. You know what I'm saying? At Eddie's house doing nothing, just chilling in the basement, listening to music and stuff. So I'm saying all that to say, once I know I learned as I was going along within my path, but I created my path. And, for me, I remember when I started DJing, I just went and bought some equipment. I took my loan money from school, and then I was like, well, I just pay my rent out of pocket for this semester, but I'll go ahead and buy some equipment. My mom was like, yo, why are you buying this equipment? You spending this money? Da, da, da. I was like, I got this. I'm cool. I'm going to figure it out. I was like, I just got to eat less, and I'll start learning how to DJ. Started 97 and been going to this day. You know what I'm saying? Now she borrows money from me off of DJing, not even off of my corporate shit, because I had DJed professionally like for a long period of time. Now I just do it as, kind of the side thing. But it's like, I knew like from the DJing perspective, now I'm a DJ, and now like, oh, well, even, fast forward now within my career, it's like, well, hell, I got a certification test tomorrow morning. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, no, like I'm going to bust my ass to make myself better and invest in myself. And no one is and like I said, I'm not doing it quote unquote by myself, but I'm focused on my own. I have people all the time, and I tell people like, listen, in life, when you do things, it's going to be 50% of people telling you not to do it. It's going to be 50% of people telling you to do it. So, and don't worry about how they feel about you. Just do it. Because the thing is, they go hate, they go love, no matter what. If you end up passing this certificate, like I said, I got it tomorrow morning, you end up passing this certification, throw me an extra 20,000 on the salary that y'all trying to get me out here. I know what this position, or I know what this certification gets me. You know what I'm saying? But that's invested in myself. I can pay $200, $300 for a certification. I'm investing $300 and the certification gets me an extra 20. You do the math. Hell, if I fail the certification tomorrow and I take it again, that's another 300 bumped up, $600. I get an extra 20,000. Do the math. Like I'm still going to, I can take the test 5 times and then eventually pass, and still my return on investment is that much better. But I'm saying I invest in myself, where I feel like, and this is one thing I want to get across to a lot of people. If you want to do something, then do it. Invest in yourself. Don't list, like people will always find and I say this as in people will put themselves in your shoes on a way that you think about, on a way that they think about something. So their self-doubts already are going to hurt you if you're taking their advice and just going with it. Because most of the time people are going to like, oh no, maybe you should study a little bit more. Maybe you should look at that next year. That's one thing we never get back is time. It's like, no, go ahead and do the things that you want to do. I'm at the tender age of 48 when I'm like, okay, nah, I want this now. I'm gonna figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Like, hell, I give it last example. We jump into the next topic. I don't want to long-wind the conversation, but I had an offer for a job last Monday, and I got the offer. I countered them. I was like, no, I need to have this in the offer in order for me to take it. They refused, said no, blah, blah, blah. Mind you, I'm not working right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm missing out on that money that I'm able to get just because I countered offer. But I'm getting what I want, right? So I interviewed for another position on Tuesday. Got the offer for that job on Friday. $30,000 more, $25,000, $27,000, something like that. Almost $30,000 more than the position on Monday. Mm-hmm. I could have taken the position as is from the money job, you mm-hmm. know, but that wasn't what I wanted. I was like, okay, y'all go give me exactly. I mean, not exactly, but I was like, let's negotiate. Let's figure this out. You know, like mm-hmm. I got to get, the number has to make sense to me, you know, mm-hmm. and they couldn't get to that, and that's fine. Of course, I was down. I'm like, oh God, I can really use some income to come in right now. But mm-hmm. turn around Friday, 27,000 more on the job. And the other job was 5 days in the office. This one is 2 to 3 days in the office. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like understanding what you want and asking for it. Like I want to, and I want to get into the whole Bible and shit like that. But like my pastor said, he's like, hey, look, you know, he didn't want to say it directly to me, but it felt like it. But he was like, if you want something, ask for it. Don't ask specifically. Don't say, hey, I need to, I need your humble grace and all of this. Blah, blah, blah. Say, hey, look, when I prayed, I was like, God, look, I need a job by Friday. I need to pay this. I need to get caught up on this, and I need this to happen. And like I said, it doesn't happen all the time, but I literally got an offer on Friday. And I'm not saying like, you know, I'm the godliest person, but I do pray and I do figure out, you know, I was like, well, if he blesses me with this, that's fine. But I wasn't thinking I was thinking when he blesses me with this. I didn't think like he had to come through on Friday. I'm thinking whenever he decides to come through, he's going to come through when I need it the most.
Yeah.
You know, so
I often used to tell people the worst thing somebody can tell you is no. Yeah. I had a friend who had said to me one time, this book a couple months ago, she was considering transitioning from one job to another. And she said, oh, I don't really know. Sometimes I look at these job descriptions and I'm not sure. And I'm da-da-da-da. And I said to her, well, don't always get so caught up in what the job description is. I said, because a lot of times you can see the job description. And then once you actually get an interview or get an understanding of what the job requires, it's not exact as it's being described. But that's how they have to list it or, you know, kind of refer to it as. I said, the worst you could do is go into that environment and not at least ask the questions. She says, well, some of them, they're not paying what I would want them to pay. And I says, how do you know that?
Ask for it.
I said, first you got to get the interview. I said, and when you get the interview, then sell yourself.
Yep.
If you know what you bring to the table, I said, most times in the application or on the job listing, they're starting at base level. They didn't necessarily tell you that's what you was going to get paid. Mm-hmm. You then come into that environment. If you're certified, like you said, you have the criteria you have. And lots of times people overlook the fact that years worked. When you have the experience, sometimes that speaks volumes over somebody coming out of college with the degree in that particular field. But when they don't know the nuances and the ins and outs of the actual job, and somebody else is in that same space, but's been with the company 5-6 years, understands what their goal is, what their motive is, what their initiative is, and knows how to get to the end product, that speaks volumes. And I said, when you get in there, I said, and then you have to factor in, how does their pay system work? I said, okay, you saw that job and maybe they said $50,000. Okay, you don't want 50,000, you want 65. I said, but now you don't know how that pay system works. I said, maybe you come in and you ask for 40, 45. But then you didn't know until you got the job that after your first 90 days, your trial period, you got another raise. And 6 months in, you get another promotion or raise. A year in, you had your evaluation and you get another raise. Who's to say within that year's time, you're not closer to the 50 that you wanted than you thought?
Yeah.
Because you don't, selling yourself. I said, the worst they could tell you is no. The worst they could tell you is no.
Don't talk yourself out of it, though.
That's right. Sell yourself. I say, you know the job, or you think you do. Even if you don't, go in there and they say, fake it till you make it. Sell yourself like it's your last day on earth. And the worst they could tell you is no. Case in point with your scenario there. Okay, you didn't get what you was asking for the day before, but the second day somebody said yes. The worst they could tell you is no.
Yeah. No,
don't mean I still don't want it. Don't mean I still don't deserve what I'm asking for. Maybe that I believe a lot in fate. A lot of times people, I leave a lot to fate. You just never know. It was your time to shine. That first opportunity was probably never in the cards for you. It was not going to be the right fit. You probably wouldn't have wanted to be there too much longer because you wouldn't have felt like you were getting paid what your worth was. And so when you go into spaces like that, sometimes you don't bring your A game. Sometimes you ain't, giving it your all because you're thinking to yourself, now I ain't finna do 2 men's job and get paid for one, And so the worst they could tell you is no. That don't mean you don't ask.
Yep.
That don't mean you don't ask. And I liked when you referred to your mom as being an inspiration. I should have included her as the inspiration, but not somebody I just looked up to again. Like your mother's single mom, working a lot. She worked for the school system for 40 years. So a lot of times when we at school, she at school too. So there was not a lot of time for her to be as engaged and as present as she would have liked to have been. And when I got to be a teenager, I ain't gonna even lie, that was probably the most tumultuous times of our life. We butted heads to there was no end. And I was even then, the consequence of my arrogance, but kind of hard-headedness. I financially have been kind of supporting myself since I was 15. Her consequence to me would always be taking things away. I was too old to whoop. I was too old to punish in a certain kind of way. But she knew how to make it hurt. Take the car, to go school shopping for my sibling, but won't buy you nothing.
I hated that.
How to make the consequence.
I gotta get to work.
Yeah,
I gotta get to work. Like, what the fuck?
Gotta get to work, and you can't take this car and call your daddy, call your granddaddy, and so I even then, as I look back on it now, I used to tell people, and I still do. My mom's been passed away about 8-9 years, and she was OCD. We had chores and rules around there that a nun would stamp. That's how good they was. And I rebelled against a lot of things. But the moment my mother passed away, when I say all those things that she did innately, that she punched into our head, came fluttering back. It was always, right on how to do something, how to stay. She was very studious with paying bills and on time with, making sure you be on time and you be present and you pay your bills and, you keep track of your money. You have a bank account. It was certain things that and as a kid, you'd be like, oh, she don't know what she talking about, blah, 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 blah. Soon as I got to that age of being on my own, because when I went away to college, she didn't even know I was going. I was doing things when I was a teenager I'm not necessarily proud of, but I was getting money. And I took my own money. And I woke her up one morning and was like, can you give me a ride to the bus station? She said, where you going? I said, to school. So she had no idea my own goals, my own tenacity. Actually, my friends didn't know I was leaving either. I hung out with them all night long and didn't tell none of them that I was going away to college the next day. And I just left.
Yeah.
It was, the best decision I could have made for my life. But the tenacity in me was like, I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah, you made the decision. That's dope. Yeah. Like I said, the mom, like it's weird how like I like the. It's funny. It's when I have conversations, I'll probably talk about my mom somewhere within them conversations the most, and I can talk about she's the one she can annoy me, but she's the one that right, wrong, indifferent. Like she's the one that drove me most of the way, like even from DJing. Like, oh God, I was like, God, I can't buy no DJ equipment and I can't spin records. It's like,
like they would be the ones the hardest to please. No matter what good thing you do, it's always one more thing you could have done better. That was kind of like our attitude with each other. You could have went up that. Well, why you didn't do it this way? Why did you didn't do it? And I'm like, what I did it. What is you talking about?
Look, I asked my mom the other day. I was like, because we were talking about the the job that that didn't come to fruition, and I was like, Ma, how much money you think I make? It's like what do you think I'm just out here just accepting anything just because it's a job? I was like, no, like, and it was just an interesting conversation. She's like, well. And she doesn't do this that often. I need to have these conversations more with my sisters and my nephew and stuff like that, because they have the relationship that they have, or they have a similar relationship that I have with my mom, but not, I want to say I'm close or anything like that. But she was like, well, you know what you're doing and you go figure it out. And I was like, I ain't never heard this shit before. Like, where did this old wise mom revelation come from? But it like, cause she's done that several. I don't know if it's within the older age or whatever, but she's done that several times. Like, it was a time where I was talking to her and she was like, I'm sorry, and I was like, only one time ever. And that was the time, like, that was like, maybe that was within the past 6 months where I heard, I'm sorry. And I'm like, damn, like, okay, she's getting a little older, because I have never heard of Mama, like you said, the accountability thing earlier within the conversation. I have never heard her say, I messed up. And that's where I the things that I wanted to hear, I automatically inject those into who I am as a person. So, I mean, whether it's positive or negative, I still do the things that make, like, whenever I'm talking to somebody and I'm wrong, like, my bad. Yeah. So how do we fix it?
My mom, prior to passing away, when you just said that about the accountability thing, she had to have a surgery this a few months before she passed away. And she was making these statements, you know how they do when they get ready to go to surgery. And she was talking to me and my siblings, and she looks at me and she says, and you're my child that'll get it done. I never have to worry about you getting it done. If something needs to be done, you're going to get it done. And for the first time, and I think it felt like maybe ever, I'm going to drop the phone and say ever, it was like she was saying, I see you and I've always saw you. And I know that you're going to get it done no matter what it is, because my personality has always been very kind of combative. I'm going to go against the grain, but I get it done. And for her to know that in me and knew that. And then before saying it shortly before she passed, that always has stuck with me since she's
Resonated.
passed away, that she did know. And as a mom, and I know you don't have children yet, but as a mom, the one thing I do say is, you know your kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know them. I got two, and I can tell you that they personalities like night and day. I can tell you if somebody else described my kids to me, I can tell you which one of them did it. Because if nothing else, as a parent, as an intuitive parent, a present parent, meaning they may not be always around, but they watching. You know your children. She know what you capable of. She know what kind of stock you come from. And even if she don't never tell you, I bet she bragging to a friend. My
Oh my
son
God.
is.
My mom called me on FaceTime.
My
Look,
son
called me on FaceTime like, this my son.
your neighborhood around this town, you probably a millionaire, let her tell it. And my son, because sometimes we don't always know how to show or express our admiration for our children or how proud we are to them directly, because again, we know them. Just like I know what good in you, I know what bad in you. I tell my kids all the time, you like, don't lie to me. Tell me first before anybody can tell me something, because I'm the only one on this earth, right, wrong, or indifferent.
Yep.
Gonna be there with you. Gonna try to do. I might can't get you out of jail, but I can keep you from getting life. You know what I'm saying? So tell me, because I'm gonna know you're lying. I'm gonna know.
Look, if we got to stand on that lie, then
we gonna rock it to the bitter end. I might not put up this house, but we sure gonna get a lawyer to try to keep you from getting the death penalty. I think all the commissary in the world. So yeah, you take that as a nod, and as I say, as this is just me speaking to you as a mother of a son. She see you. She never said she see you. She's very much aware of what you're capable of. And I take that and I run with it, because I like I said, that moment when that conversation happened, my mother passed away like 2 months after that. But the fact that she said it in her right mind prior to that happening, and allowing me to know that she saw me, and I may have been her most hard to deal with child. She was proud of me. You know what I'm saying? Because I checked off a lot of boxes. I bought my home when I was 26 years old.
I mean, but she knew you was on your shit, which is dope.
She know that I'm on my shit. If ain't nobody gonna get it done, she's gonna get it done. So
no, that's always important. I always tell people, like, it's these little moments, and I'm glad you was able to get that from your mom, because there's, you want to feel like you got, like, it's because she's always been in the corner, but it's always good when it's almost what's the word? I'm gonna say justified, but like I called her, on Friday. I was like, guess what I got? She was like, what'd she say? She said, she's like, you got some breakfast or something? Like, I was like, no, guess what I got? And she was like, all right, I'm tired of guess. I was like, I got a job, like, she was like, I knew you was going to, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, it's always good to, help them understand, like, because my mom, she worked at the prison for 25, 30 years, you know what I'm saying? So they always used to, they're used to you work for a place for a long time and go from there. But like this climate, it's almost impossible within engineering in general to stay with a company longer than 5 or 10 years, because there's always corporate cuts and all these different reasons. So she don't understand why I move from company to company, but I'm getting more and more money. I'm like, well, no, that's kind of like the nature of the game. But all that being said, I love the fact that I was able to be able to say, oh no, I got a job, like, and just had that, hear her joy and stuff like that. So
and share that. And have her be proud too, to ask all the questions. Well, how much you gonna be making? Where you gonna be working at? Who you gonna be working for, boy?
Look, I had to break it down. Like, and that's the conversation. I was like, how much do you really think I make? Like, do you think I'm just out here just trying to? I was like, no. I was like, because we had this conversation about the house when, because what I do contract work. So within the contract, my contract ended in August, and I had the surgery in September. And so after the surgery, after I recover, I'm back to, looking for jobs and stuff like that. But she was like, well, I can help you out with your mortgage. And I was like, I know you can't. Like, it's like my mortgage. My mortgage is $2,400. I was like, your mortgage or whatever you pay on taxes now because the house is paid off. Even when she had a mortgage, her mortgage was like $400. I was like, there's no way in hell like your salary or what you make is gonna be able to compensate for this high ass house that I live in. And I love my house. And it was well worth it, but it's just, I was like, no, but she was like, but I know, cause I told her, I was like, no, I'm gonna figure it out. Cause I always tell her, I'm gonna figure it out. Don't even worry about that. Like, I'm never gonna be worried about losing a house or being able to not take care of things that I need, But yeah, it's just good. She was like, well, you go figure it out. I'm like, yeah, you ain't got no choice. Shit. So,
yeah, it's life. Say, don't make you, I mean, key, you make you stronger. So you gotta figure it out. You gotta figure it out. I will say this though, as I got older into the stage that I'm in now in my late 40s, I often reflect and say to myself, I have a lot more empathy for my mom. I can remember my mom at this age. I can remember maybe the trouble that she felt I was bringing to her or the stubbornness that I was bringing to the table. And as a parent, not knowing the backstory, I don't know the things that my mom may have kept from us. The time she may have been robbing Peter to pay Paul. The things that were going on behind the scenes that may have been causing her stress or concern. I don't know those stories. I don't know if it was something that was weighing heavy on her. I don't know how the divorce affected her. I know for many years she didn't date because she had 3 daughters and she just refused to bring men around us. Could that have contributed to her not finding love again, not wanting to remarry? I don't know. What I do know as a mom at this age, I have a better understanding because I know that there are things that my children don't know. There were times when they were younger and the scuffle was hard and I just didn't tell them everything. When me and their father separated after 16 years, how I may have kept my emotional feelings and how that was affecting me from maybe being a little more compassionate, a little bit more patient with them, working more, being kind of, I ain't gonna say not present because I'm one of them parents that was at everything. I literally attended every single event, field trips, school, anything. I'm gonna be there because I always wanted my mom to be there. And I understood as an adult now that she had to work and it wasn't possible. But I work in the industry that I work in, I've always made sure that I used my PTO wisely. I never took frivolous vacations. I never took weeks off at a time. I kept those hours so that if my son had a field trip, I'm going to be that chaperone parent. If my sons had a game or something they were at, I'm going to be there. They never had to not look over in them stands and not worry about me not being there because I was going to be present. So I have a lot more empathy now because I don't know what her journey was. I don't know, and to this day, some of those questions will never get answered because she's not here to have those conversations. But I do have empathy for the time frame because I think back and I'll be like, I remember my mom in my 40s. Well, I remember the hard time I was giving her, when she was in her 30s and I was a teenager and I was reckless and talking crazy and for the streets. It was, I just remember, and I could just imagine as a mom what that was like,
Listen, one thing and we can wrap on this, but I remember talking to my mom. She came here, and I'm not going to because it involves family. But she came here to visit during COVID, and when she was like she was saying, well, we were talking about an individual, and I was like, yeah, I support the family. Da, da, da. She's like, well, you don't know what he did to me, and I
Yeah.
was like, tell me more. Like I didn't even know that there was a thing, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that granted, I'm not sure how much your mom would have told you, but
Yeah.
of course that we've dealt, and we haven't like I don't have any like specific like trauma that's like that to that
Yeah,
level,
me neither.
but at the same time it's like you know it's hard to like I want like when she said
And
it I was like
sometimes what you say, it's hard to imagine they had a life before being a child. I mean, before being a parent.
yeah, I was like, let's talk about it more, da, da, da. But then she automatically shut back down. I
Yeah.
was like, damn, well, you don't want to push like I tell everybody all the time, like, you got a story, you tell it when you want to tell it. Like, I can't force no
Mhm.
one to tell a story, but just know that I'm here because it almost it can feel embarrassing to them, or it's like they don't want the sympathy or the empathy that's there to be provided. I'm looking at it like, no, like I'm not judging. Like I
Mhm.
understand. Like I'm I'm here to hear about because I mean it makes a little bit more sense on like, well, ain't Evelyn mean or da da da. I was like, well, no, you don't know what she actually went through, what I'm saying, and stuff like that. As a child, like this isn't as an adult or anything like that. Of course, she dealt with everything as an adult, but being impacted as a child can change the way who you are as a person forever.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
so when she
Yeah.
broke down and said that, I was like, oh no, I was like, all right, well, I mean, we literally driving to go to Whole Foods and shit. And I was like, well, tell me more. Like, talk about it. Like, so I can understand it and see where you're coming from. Cause I've never been a judger. I've always abided by you live by your own path. Like I can't tell you what you should be doing. And I hate when people try to say, well, you should do this. Like if you're a child and like I'm teaching you and you're learning, I'm like, this is why you should do this, and this is what you're going to get from it. But as an adult, I'm never going to tell anybody what they should do. I'm gonna give advice and give information and stuff like that. But I'm never going to tell somebody this is the only way to do it and da da da. And if you don't do it this way, then I don't fuck with you. And da, da,
Mhm.
da. I don't know. Like talk to people, understand what they're going through. Because, like I said, I mean, that was a moment for me that I've only had that moment one time in my life. And she's 74. She'll never
Yeah.
open up like that again. And
Yeah.
she only opened up at that point in time based off of frustration, not even off of me asking questions. So
Yeah. So that's a story that they say may never get told, and you'll always um have that in your mind. But I would say that that'd be a great topic for us to explore
mhm.
on maybe one of our next sessions. We could talk about maybe how secrets hurt families. So
All right. We gonna definitely that's gonna be a topic. So definitely we'll talk about that next time. But appreciate y'all for tuning in for Let's Talk About This. We appreciate you. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave a post, talk about things that you would like us to tackle, and we'll go from there. Toya, any parting words?
no, I'm looking forward to our next topic and subject. I really enjoy it, and I enjoy conversating and having that kind of like difference of opinions and views.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's just kind of good to sometimes hear a man's point of view on certain things. So I like that, and I enjoy doing that. So I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait to our next session. So
Look,
you keep
I
them good topics coming in, and I'll do my research.
Look, I really love talking to you, and I love the engagement, and I like the back and forth, and that's always important because the thing is, like, we're not looking to solve anybody's
Mhm.
situation. We're just telling you how we've dealt and how we live and the things that we experienced within life, and that's only meant to help you figure out things that you may be going through. Like I said, leave a conversation with or leave a topic within the within the comments, and we're always open to talking about those things. But
yeah.
but anyway, thanks you everyone. Talk to you soon. Peace.
Bye. Have a good night.